and welcome to today's 3-minute halacha, as we continue to learn about Koreiah, about tearing on Shabbos. And we already discussed that there's a strong connection between Koreiah and Tofer. And so if something's going to be an issue of sewing on Shabbos, if you're going to combine two things into one, and so we're not going to Koreiah, we're not going to tear and separate those two things, that individual thing into two separate ones. And Mishnah Berurah points out that this is really an issue with toilet paper, because toilet paper, you have one unit, and the whole roll is made just as one singular unit, and then they put perforations in so that we can pull them apart, separate them into little sheets. But that will constitute tearing. Whether we're doing tearing on the perforations, because then it's an issue of makbeh patish, we're kind of finishing off the job that the manufacturer started, or even if we're tearing toilet paper not in the perforations, not in the middle, it's still a problem to do it on purpose in a deliberate manner, because it's still tearing. And the Mishnah Berurah describes what's the issue, what's the isser of tearing on Shabbos. He says that if you were to take one piece of paper and tear it and use that piece of paper, I'm very much planning on using the toilet paper, and so the Mishnah Berurah would say that would be a violation of Shabbos. We don't want to do it. So what are my options? If, God forbid, I'm in a situation where I don't have access to toilet paper, I don't have access to tissues, what should I do? Well, the Orchos Shabbos quotes Rav Elyashiv and the Tzitz Eliezer, saying that if there's no other option, you can use a shino, you can mix it up. Rav Sfardim are even a little bit more machmir about this, but Rav Yosef says the same thing. In a makom tzarech, in a time of great need, like someone who's in the bathroom and has no other option to get themselves clean, we will be able to rip the toilet paper with a shinoi. That's when it comes to ripping toilet paper. But what about tissues? Even in tissues, we might have a slight problem. And this applies to tissues. It actually also applies to garbage bags. That sometimes when you have tissues, this happens ironically more frequently in Eretz Yisrael. They'll have the bag of tissues, and when you pull one out, the second one comes up, and they're slightly connected. There's that little bit of connection, and so maybe that slight connection between one tissue and the other tissue is going to be an issue of Koreiah as well. But when we talk about Koreiah as being connected to Tofer, as being a derivative of sewing and then tearing, if it's a tenuous connection, if it's not a deliberate connection, it will not be a problem. And the manufacturers don't really want the two pieces of tissue connected. They don't really want them together. They just want the top tissue to be able to pull the second one out. And so it's a very light connection. It's very easy to take apart. And when we have an easy disconnection, an easy tearing, that will end up being mutter. And so Mordechai Willig, quoting the Sefer 39 Malachos and the Beis Halevi in Chelik Beis Siman Nun Ches, tells us that that's not going to be a problem. You're allowed to use the pieces of tissues that separate as we pull them out. The same would apply when it comes to garbage bags, because garbage bags, Baruch Hashem, we build up a lot of garbage over Shabbos, we want to put in a new bag. That new bag, while it is separated, while it is connected and does have some level of perforations, really the manufacturers don't want them to be connected. They just want them to flow out one from another, same way with the tissues. And so separating that, it's a light, tenuous connection that's not intended to be permanent. It's really just there for manufacturer ease. Therefore, we'll be able to separate tissues on Shabbos. We'll be able to separate those garbage bags on Shabbos. That's all our time for today. Have a wonderful Shabbos.